Mzansi Afrika! All roads lead to FNB Stadium on Saturday, 9 March for the Soweto Derby. And we want you to be part of it. SABC Sport and Vodacom are giving you a chance to win your share of 30 double tickets. That's not all. As a Buccaneer or Kossi fan, you can also win double jerseys of Orlando Pirates or Kaizer Chiefs for you and your friend. To enter this exhilarating giveaway, head over to sabcsport.com and visit the competition page. Entries close on Tuesday, 5 March 2024. T's and C's apply. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga. Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
What? 1960 who? 1960 what? 1960 who? 19. Hey, the Motor City is burning. That ain't right. 1960 what? 1960 who? 1960 what? 1960 who? 19. Hey, the Motor City is burning, y'all. That ain't right. There was a man, voice of a people, standing on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel. Shots rang out. Yes, it was a gun. He was the only one to fall down, y'all. That ain't right. Then his people scream, ain't no need for sunlight, ain't no need for moonlight, ain't no need for street light, 'cause it's burning real bright. Some folks say we gon' fight, 'cause this here thing just ain't right. 1960 what? 1960 who? 1960 what? 1960 who? 19. Hey, the Motor City is burning, y'all. Ooh, the Motor City is burning, y'all. Great God Almighty, the Motor City is burning. Ooh, it's burning. Young man coming out of a liquor store with 3 pieces of black licorice in his hand, y'all. Mr. Policeman thought it was a gun, thought he was the one, shot him down, y'all. That ain't right. Then his mama screamed, ain't no need for sunlight, ain't no need for moonlight, ain't no need for street lights, 'cause it's burning real bright. Some folks say we gon' fight, 'cause this here thing just ain't right. 1960 what? 1960 who? 1960 what? 1960 who? 19. Hey, the Motor City's burning. Great God Almighty is burning. You can't put out the fire 'cause it's burning.
It is the incomparable Gregory Porter coming through with 1960 What is the name of this particular song. And really this one pays a homage to the great civil rights leadership and the civil rights movements of the time, but also is somewhat of a appreciation letter towards his mother, who he contributes as being a very big part of just liberating his mind and also shaping his perspective as a African man in America, growing up at a very difficult time, and ultimately the artist that he's chosen to be. It is Gregory Porter coming through with 1960 What. That is how we kick off the show this afternoon. I hope that you are having a great day thus far. Even or despite the horrible news that we have confirmation on, that the petrol and diesel price is going up at midnight tonight, going up by over R1 for the respective fuel categories. But we shall endure. Somebody once said that we can't focus too much on the ups and downs of the petrol price because it's completely out of our control. It's going to go up when it goes up, and it's going to go down when it goes down. And we just have to, grind our teeth and do what needs to be done. So this is just your friendly reminder that if you haven't filled up yet, perhaps you'd like to find some time during the course of your day to make sure that you fill up and at very least prolong having to fill up with the new prices that will be reflected from tomorrow. We've got lots of show coming your way today. We're catching up with Joy Patla. Joy. She is the landscape designer and founder of Organic Kitchen Gardens. And we're looking at living wall spaces and how living walls and even just, plant environments can assist in your wellness. Also coming up today, we are going to indulge in some stages, pages, screens and more. It is a Tuesday after all. And we're talking to the folks at the Capital Art Fair in Tshwane. It is the inaugural Capital Art Fair in Tshwane. Tshwane very much positioning itself now as the arts and culture hub of the Gauteng region. And so we're going to have that conversation a little bit later on. And then on the other side of 2 o'clock, we're delving into endometriosis. March is Endometriosis Awareness Month, and we're going to have that conversation with an interventional radiologist, as well as an activist and someone living with endometriosis having been diagnosed. We are going to have that conversation, find out more about what I perceive to be a very tricky diagnosis from what I've read thus far of endometriosis. So that conversation's happening on the other side of 2. It's just gone 1:15. Let's take a quick break and then we'll get right back into it.
You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
It is the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, on SAFM, and we are joined in conversation now by landscape designer and founder of Organic Kitchen Gardens, Joy Pala. Joins me. I always say Patla, Joy. I don't know why. Joy Pala joins me, and we're looking at just living in urban environments. Of course, we know that we are surrounded by concrete and noise and pollution and traffic and all these things, and oftentimes also living in confined and compact spaces, especially if you're living in urban metros. And we thought we'd indulge a conversation around living walls and how perhaps we can incorporate living walls into our living spaces and some of the benefits of having a live environment within your space. So Joy Pala joins me now on the line. How are you doing, Joy?
Hi, I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.
It's only a pleasure. For all the years that I've known you, for some reason, ngiyakufisela ukuthi ube uphahla, yazi, I don't know why.
Yazi ngathi nje mhlambe ngumakoti wakhona angazi.
Perhaps. Let's talk about living walls. Firstly, I guess let's try and get a picture and understanding when we talk about living walls.
Right.
What are we talking about?
So these are gardens that grow literally vertically on the wall, right? And the systems can range from very, very basic to extremely complex. And when we're talking about very, very basic, imagine a jasmine trellis on a wall, right? You don't really have garden. You're just surrounded by walls and passageways, which is really what happens with us living in small apartments. We have these small sort of corridor gardens with grass, but we can't really do much on it because we love the idea of the grass. We want to be able to take our shoes off and be able to walk on the grass, but we can't really do more. But we're surrounded by all of this wall space. So a very simple, basic living wall would be to plant a little bit of jasmine along the wall, or even that creeping fig tree, right? You've seen this one where you can see that the plant is literally attaching itself to the wall and it's growing to cover the entire area with greenery, right? So that's really, really like the basic, most simplest way to create a vertical garden.
Yeah.
And then we can have, we have situations where we literally don't even have this patch of grass to work with. We have concrete everywhere. So there isn't like open soil that we can work with where we can plant a jasmine or a fig to have a trellis on a wall. But we can do stuff like hanging pots. And I love hanging pots where a client asks me to do a kitchen garden for them, but there's no open soil anywhere. And then what we do is we take these, I think it's eco pots. They have like a range of wall pots that you literally mount the pot on the wall. You fill your pot with potting mix, and then you can plant a range of plants in there. I love herbs because they tend to, sort of keep their shape and their look throughout the year. So they're not going to, look depleted very quickly. So we do a lovely herb garden with these sort of hanging pots, right? And then the final system is a very complex system. And I think if you've been to like a restaurant, I think it's Rockets in Bryanston, they have a splash of greenery along their walls, and these plants are actually living plants. So if you've been to Rockets and you thought it was silk plants, it's actually living plants. And the way that this system works is they integrate sort of like hanging pots with an automatic irrigation system. They have filters and they have a way to catch any sort of excess water and have that water circle back into the plants. We've done one of these, and we've done one of these for a project in Norwood. So if you go to my Instagram, just search through some of the videos, you'll see there's a project in Norwood where a client requested us to create a garden along the pool. And it was a small pool, it was a small area, and there was literally very little open soil. But she had this beautiful splash wall. So we then created a garden that would literally live on the wall with live plants that would keep their shape and would keep their form right throughout the year. We had the irrigation system for this integrated into the main irrigation system. It runs on a timer. It literally comes on and it switches itself off, and you don't even have to think about it until you start seeing things that are growing out of shape, and it's really just a matter of trimming and upkeep.
Wow. I mean, it's very interesting because, as you say, it can go from the most basic, easily maintained thing that you don't have to worry about. We've seen those homes with creepers that just grow and from time to time, someone trims them, to a very complex, deliberate, focused, designed system.
Absolutely. And, if you think about how just being in the presence of plants, psychologically, what that does to your brain, how it just slows everything down. It, relieves your high blood pressure. It is such a psychological healing experience to have plants around you and to have an opportunity to have a garden around you, even if you do not have areas of open soil.
Yeah.
And you can still have living plants. You definitely can have vertical garden. Silk plants. We've seen these, if you go to an event, if you go to any one of Precious the Planner's events, she always has a splash wall of silk plants. And that is something you definitely can do in a home. But to have an opportunity to have living walls, it's a different experience altogether.
And I mean, as you allude, Joy, to the benefits of it all, studies have shown that just simply having just a view even of greenery at times, even in your work spaces, actually assists in productivity and overall wellness.
Absolutely, because space affects us. Space is not just about functionality. It's not just about having a row of cubicles for people to punch out outputs. Where we work affects us. The environment in which we work will affect how we feel. And usually when we feel good, when we feel like we are in beautiful, distinctive spaces, automatically that changes our moods, that helps us to get more accomplished. And I mean, I think about the story of the Google CEO. If you actually just Google their headquarters indoor garden, it's expansive, and they have deliberately created this indoor oasis of hanging plants, vertical gardens, streams of water features indoor, right? Just so that they can spark inspiration, they can spark creativity, they can create a relaxed working environment, and that translates to productivity. I mean, who doesn't want to go to an office like that?
Right?
Who doesn't want to work for an employer like that? Right?
No, so true.
Absolutely.
So true. And I think perhaps a lot of the times we underestimate the potential that lays in houses, even if we had to look at the domestic space, because so many of us live in enclosed spaces, apartment living. People think that maybe we can't incorporate some greenery and some living plants into the space.
Absolutely, and it is so possible. The thing, obviously, is that the more enclosed the space, the more challenging the plant choices. But then you get a designer, a landscape designer, to help you to assess where you want to put the splash of living green, and they can actually choose the plants that are going to survive in that environment for you to create this beautiful splash of greenery in your home.
Let's talk about also, the various plants that could be incorporated into a living space in the household, and maybe even plants that might have some kind of benefit. We live in cities. We often have to deal with toxins in the air pollution, all the rest of it. We ourselves are spraying things, trying to get rid of flies and ants and all the rest of it. And I'm pretty sure there are plants that we can bring into the home, into living walls and otherwise, that can help.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, look, if you think about indoor gardens, and for me, there's two ways. You can always go tropical, and you will see this is a very, very popular theme with vertical gardens, where you're incorporating, and you don't have to have like a whole lot of species of plants. You can have 3 types of plants on this wall. You can have a fern, a leather leaf fern, right? We know ferns will enjoy being in the home in that sort of medium light condition. You can have things like Monstera deliciosa. You can have things in there like you can still have your peace lilies, you can still have your regular indoor plants. The key is to choose plants that have a prostrate habit of growing. For example, hen and chickens, they just kind of lay themselves over. You don't want something that's really going to stick out too much because you'll constantly be having to trim that. And really 3 different types of plants will give you a beautiful, gorgeous backsplash of greenery.
Listen, I think we definitely need more of your advice. And in terms of plants that assist with clearing the air, also maybe getting rid of the toxicities,
Right.
Any recommendations?
Look, there isn't really a plant that I can say this one is more beneficial in terms of clearing toxicity. I think what you are able to accommodate in your home, no matter how little it is, will always be better than not having plants at all.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those who want to perhaps experiment with building some type of vertical wall, I mean, it all sounds too adventurous for me. What would be the point of departure, the piece of advice?
Right. The point of departure would be, if you wanted to do our situation, get those hanging pots, right? They come with a contraption that you literally drill into the wall. It's like something to hang your pot on, right?
Yeah.
So that is, if you're really big into DIY, you could start there. The other thing you could do is, if, let's say, for example, you've got a bookshelf, right, in the living room, and you just have decorative items on it. You can most definitely get creepers, right, indoor creepers, and just have these in little pots and splash them across your bookcase, just so that you have that trickling effect of greenery incorporated into your bookshelf with some books, with some decorative items, and you literally then have your hanging vertical wall without having to do too much.
Yeah. You see, I like that last idea. I think it should be just a touch of greenery and plantery for someone like me, but without being too overwhelming. That sounds like a doable one. Joy, thank you so much for the advice this afternoon. That was Joy Pala. You can find her on Instagram, by the way. She's on Instagram. She's very active, very engaged under @Organic Kitchen Gardens. And you can have a look at some of the work that she's done. And maybe this year will convince her to going back to doing her live series where she'd share some tip and advice from time to time. That was Joy Pala, landscape designer and founder of Organic Kitchen Gardens. You know, the only reason that I personally don't do creeping walls and vertical gardens is because I'm petrified. I have a phobia. I'm not even exaggerating. I'm petrified of lizards. Lizards of any kind, but particularly geckos, because they are unpredictable and unstable, and they will just fall at a drop of a hat. And the cameramen inside the studio are laughing at me. And that is the only reason that I will never entertain a vertical wall with plants, because then it's basically I'm just saying to them, come be rent-free tenants and come live in the house for as long as you want. But it sounds like great advice then. Maybe starting off with hanging pots would be a good way to start. It is 1:30, time to catch up with Luyanda Mahume and the headline news.
Good afternoon. In the headlines, in an effort to deal with the debt accumulated over the Gauteng Freeway Improvement Project, the Gauteng Provincial Government says it will have to borrow around 13 billion rand from financial institutions. South Africa has marginally avoided a technical recession as data released by Stats SA shows the economy grew by 0.1% in the fourth quarter of 2023. And the Manzini Magistrates Court in the Kingdom of Eswatini has postponed the case against the 2 men implicated in the murder of rapper Keenan aka Forbes and his friend, renowned chef Tibelo Tips Mutswane, to the 12th of March. I'll have details on these and other stories at 2.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
Well, that definitely was Anne Musa. Apologies for that, Anne, and she'll be back again with you at 2:00. By the way, if you want to get some kind of idea as to what your vertical garden spaces could look like, you can head on over to our Twitter handle at SAFM Radio. There's a beautiful sort of image that we've posted out there. That would be very nice, especially if you have a covered veranda. 086 000 2032 is our call line, or 0614104107 is our WhatsApp line if you'd like to be in conversation with us on WhatsApp. So the Capital Art Fair Tshwane is set to host what promises to be very much a dynamic event shaping the cultural landscape of Tshwane, and it's taking place the first week of April from the 5th until the 7th of April at Menlyn Mall. Tshwane very much positioning itself as an arts and culture hub in the Gauteng region, and we thought we'd catch up with the marketing manager for the Capital Art Fair Tshwane, Tobile Dlamini. How are you doing this afternoon, Tobile?
Good afternoon, Bridget, and good afternoon to your team and your listeners too. I'm doing quite well, thank you. I'm so thrilled to be here, actually.
We thank you for taking the time. So listen, I've noticed, and I've seen this, and we're going to talk very much Capital Art Fair, but I've noticed how Tshwane is positioning itself as the arts and culture hub, the arts and culture epicenter of Gauteng. There's a big movement that's happening there right now.
Listen, Bridget, there's been quite a shift. I always like to say, if you look at Pretoria, for instance, us as a cast team, when we think about Pretoria, right, and how much it's really been improving, we're thinking about just how much of a vibrant spirit it is, and the way it's just really been showing itself to emerge through showing its raw and unfiltered art circuit. And it's coming along in terms of art and culture quite well. And I think it also really speaks to a testament of what CAST is trying to do also in the Pretoria landscape, to show just sort of the cultural significance that Tshwane has. But it's really exponentially growing in terms of the work they also have been putting in to really showcase the arts and culture in the city.
And I mean, listen, we can never have enough opportunities and moments to highlight arts and culture, particularly in South Africa. So the Capital Art Fair Tshwane, which is being hosted from the 5th to the 7th of April, this is its inaugural art fair.
Yes, it is. It is the inaugural one. But, I mean, in terms of the way we're planning, we hope it will be a 2024 and beyond event and engagement. And we really hope that people will really be looking forward to this and will show their support, and it will be an annual thing going forward.
I'm sure they will. And the theme for this year is intersections, partly because you're billing this as not just an art fair, but you're saying that it's a convergence of narratives. Expand for me on that.
So, Bridget, when we talk about a convergence of narratives, we're talking about the idea of, as it's been placed in Tshwane, positioned in Tshwane strategically. It's the idea of bringing together a whole convergence and a convergence and fusions of things. For instance, a fusion of the tradition of Tshwane, of also even just the history, but also coupling that with the idea of how much of a rebellious city that Tshwane is, in the way that it's always being innovative and in the way that it's always showcasing something different, and even the dissent. So for us as Capital Art Fair Tshwane, it was important that we also bring together diverse voices, including the voices of dissent, which is, I suppose, it makes the art fair different. I'm sure you've also been to a couple of art fairs, maybe in Johannesburg and in Cape Town.
Yes.
And this fair, with the way that we're positioning it, it's the idea of trying to sort of position Tshwane. I mean, we talked about its cultural significance just now, but trying to position it as a global art conversation leader, because it already has been positioning itself in that way. We wanted to sort of highlight that and bring that to the fore, And when we talk about intersections, we're talking about all these things converging together, because even when you look at the lineup of artists we have quite a number of highly acclaimed, prominent, but diverse voices. And even our public talks program is really aiming to sort of hyper-focus on young dynamic voices, because we're thinking about how are we growing the art circuit in Tshwane, and how are we looking at how we make it something that's more inclusive in the way that people relate to that art circuit in Tshwane.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, right? Like, how do we make it more inclusive, and how do we get people to relate? I think is always at the center of most art conversations, especially if we're talking about art now moving out of its sort of traditional audiences. It's always been very much a white-dominated space, and now introducing it to black voices, and introducing the black voices and faces that are at the forefront of it. How do we get those audiences engaged with artists?
You know what, Bridget, I'm so glad you brought that up. I mean, just to give you a couple of stats. For instance, if you even just look at the African continent in general, and you look at how there's such a limited presence of museums, of art fairs, of biennales, right? And, I mean, if you also even just even look at a micro idea of the arts market, you're right, it's completely still dominated by white male artists. And so I think not just leading to what CAF is trying to do, but I think there has been a call to action in general in the art world, in the idea of, like, how do we make it more inclusive? And I think the way that we can do that is in the kind of artists that we have. For instance, with us at Craft, we have literally tried to tap into a market that has been untapped before. Because usually with art fairs, they go through galleries, right? Yeah. Because commercial galleries, they're the ones that are kind of sort of have the prominent voice in the art market. And what we're doing is trying to create a platform more for independent artists. And even if you even look at the lineup of artists we have, apart from the fact that they're high caliber, we really were very strategic about how we think about even women artists, because that was a very important value to us as a fair. And so, if I'm not mistaken, actually not even 50%, more than 50% of our artists are women artists, because that's an important thing to consider when you're thinking about being inclusive, you know, and even just thinking about the idea that I do think it's a fallacy that black people or other markets are not into art. Yes, the art world is still dominated by white voices, but I think there's a way that we can change that. And there really has been sort of a growing global interest, in fact, to South African arts. And may I say, not just to South African fine arts, but even motion picture, you know, even film, music. And I'm sure you've noticed this and seen that. So we really think we want to be part of that movement.
And you've got quite the stellar lineup of artists. I'm very excited about, the photographic works of people like Arthur Dlamini and his ability to archive the current cultural landscape in South Africa through his photography. And he makes up part of the artists that are going to be exhibiting.
Oh, definitely. So we literally have about over 100 artworks that we're showcasing from over 20 plus artists. In fact, I would even argue that it's close to 30. And I mean, if you look at the mediums, it's across all the different mediums, whether you're talking painting, you're talking about sculpture work, you're talking about photography. And I'm glad you mentioned somebody like Arthur Dlamini, who is so brilliant in the way his lens sort of just has an ability to capture the fragility of his audiences and his subjects, and how it really speaks to the human experience and human emotion. But I mean, you also have an Anastasia Pata. You have a Colin Masangai, who is actually quite a prominent artist, and he carries with himself the tradition that he's carried from with wood sculpture from his father and his grandfather, and how look at that journey and what a beautiful story that it tells when it comes together. You even have like an emerging artist such as Ivuku. So Ivuku, her work is centered around memory and healing and ancestry, and she has a performative element to her art as well. And you have a Neti Madonna, for instance. He's like a mixed media artist, and his work really tries to look at the idea of like the intersection of, let's say, class with power, with spirituality, and with how brands influence urban city dwelling, you know, and the challenges that are faced for urban dwellers. And it's just beautiful to watch, to see the culmination of all these different artists that have come together to bring what we would call capital art fair Tshwane. So we are very, very excited to have people come in and be part of this, you know, because I think it's groundbreaking.
It sounds like
No, go
a
ahead,
great.
Faye.
It sounds like definitely, I think, a well curated affair, Tobile, and touching on really relevant conversations of the time and perspectives of the now, which is so important, particularly in visual arts. We are looking forward to it. Can't wait to see what comes out from the 5th to the 7th of April at the Menlyn Main. So if you find yourself this side or in this province, it might be something that you want to see. That is the Capital Art Fair out in Tshwane. Of course, that was marketing manager for the art fair, Tobile Dlamini. We appreciate the time with you this afternoon. It's just gone 20 to 2 o'clock. Let's take a quick break. We'll come right back and get into conversation.
Fly better to your next holiday. Book your flights with Emirates to a holiday in Dubai, London, Istanbul, or Paris. Look forward to delicious regionally inspired cuisine, enjoy free-flowing premium drinks, and relax to your favorite movies on the way. Because it's not just about the destination, it's how you get there. This year, fly Emirates. Fly better.
The FNB Stadium will be painted in black and white as well as gold and black on Saturday, 9 March. You can also be there. 2 lucky fans stand a chance to win a VIP experience at the Soweto Derby, including transport and a supporter's jersey of your choice, courtesy of SABC Sport. To enter this thrilling giveaway, rush to sabcsport.com and visit the competition page. Entries close on Tuesday, 5 March 2024. T's and C's apply. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Chill Zone with Bertha Charuma.
Guys, can we all go to the UK when it's summertime? I'm putting it out there into the universe. Then we can use AI to find us the best tickets and how to just get around it and just go and chill for a second. It will be winter here and it will be summer the other side.
Exactly. Just maybe quick 3 apps that you can use that use AI. The first one is called Roam Around. The second one is Wonder Plan. The third one is Wayfind. Just Google these 3: Wayfind, or Wonder Plan, or Roam Around, and you just play around. You put in a few details and AI will take care of the rest for you. As you said, it will tell you when to book the flight. Flights are not the same. If you book on a Monday, it's different from a Tuesday. And it's sometimes thousands of rands that you can save.
Smooth. Mkwanazi.
Bertha Charuma. Fridays, 8 p.m. to 12 a.m. You are listening to The Full Circle.
It is the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, as we get into another conversation. And this time around, we are looking at the works of the works of visual artist Bahati Siemens, who's just opened up an exhibition at, of course, BKHZ, which is a Banele Koza's gallery just down the road here in Rosebank. And an interesting body of work for anyone who's encountered Bahati's work. There's a sense of vulnerability that's expressed in it, but also just there's a beautiful eloquence to how she portrays the images within the work. How are you doing, Bahati?
I'm well, thank you.
Thank you so much for the time. Let's jump into, firstly, I guess, in your words, for anybody who'd love to know the kind of narrative and the kind of story that you tell through your medium, how would you best describe it?
I do consider my practice to be a love letter to the Black body. It's aiming for Black people to feel seen, and it's this sense of belonging and longing for a sense of home.
And I think that's the thing that stands out for a lot of people that encounter your work is that, the love letter to the Black body. And you use full-figured imagery in your work, which is oftentimes a body that is not celebrated, weirdly enough, visually in Africanness, and yet it's a body that we celebrate wholly in the realities of our lives.
Yeah, my figures are big figures, like they're very large-scaled with tiny heads. But the whole idea of I want people to be more present within their bodies instead of being inside their heads.
And is there a deliberate reason as to why the heads are generally minuscule and tiny?
It's just creativity. Yeah, that's kind of how the figures evolved over time.
Yeah,
and I stuck with it.
Yeah, and what has been some of the sort of initial responses and reactions when people encounter your work? Because it is work that makes one stop and look, and because it's aesthetically just beautiful. I read earlier that you sort of practice it, express it with an eloquence. It is beautiful work, but it is work that causes you to stop and maybe find out who the artist is.
Yeah, people tend to be confused at first. Like, even my mom, sometimes she'll tell people that I'm making figures that are headless. So it does demand people to come closer to the pieces and get more, like, have this intimate relationship with the pieces.
And let's talk also about this exhibition that is opening now. It opened last week or week before last, if not mistaken, at Banelo Khoza's Gallery Sunset Market. Let's firstly unpack the title of the exhibition.
So the whole focus was to create the space of a slow experience of people watching. It does stem from Berkeley's To Be Is To Be Perceived, because I do think with the whole social climate we live in nowadays, it's very easy to assume certain things about people, but also be blindsided or unperceptive to who we really are. So the whole idea was to create this slow experience of people watching, but then also kind of reintroduce myself as an artist.
People watching, something that a lot of us do, but often we do from a lens of negativity and a lens of judgment. Were there particular emotive themes that you were exploring when you were thinking about that whilst creating?
Yeah, I do think that's why I'm saying reintroduce myself. I think over the years, I've created a whole community and network here in South Africa, but there's still a lot of people that don't really know who I am or that have never seen my work in real life. So the whole space is white, but I did some drawings, small paintings on the walls to create that slow experience, very intimate, like a whole safe, soft space.
You were born in Burundi, if I'm not mistaken, and then you were raised in Belgium, and you sort of traversed the continent and other fabulous locations in the world, and I would presume the interactions of blackness with the spaces where you were raised has probably influenced you as an artist and even the narrative that you choose to explore with these particular figures.
Yeah, I do feel like, so I was born in Burundi, and then once I moved to Belgium, that whole culture shock, I guess, kind of influenced me as a person. And then moving from Belgium to South Africa and traveling so much, there's people that get confused, like, am I fully black? Am I mixed? Here in South Africa, is this a colored person? If I travel to East Africa, they do think, like, they'll say I'm white. So it does create insecurities, but it also, it made me start my whole practice, just a form of self-therapy, and now I'm holding up the mirror to other black figures.
Yeah, and considering how oftentimes, and I don't know if, in Burundi particularly, how oftentimes the black body is politicized, and power is exerted over the black body. For artists like yourself who sort of celebrate it, it's probably creating safe spaces for people to be able to tap into their own personal experiences and be able to reclaim back that self-love for their physique and for who they are.
Yeah, definitely. That's also why I'm saying the aim of my whole practice is creating this sense of home and belonging.
In terms of the exhibition, I know we've missed the opening, but will you still be around perhaps for things like artist walkabouts during its duration?
I'm not sure if there's going to be a walkabout, but the show is going to be up for 2 months. This Saturday is First Thursdays as well. So I'll definitely be around the space to interact with the people.
Lovely. Bahati Siemens, we appreciate the time with you this afternoon. You can, of course, go see the exhibition, Sunset Market. It is open at Banele Kozas Gallery, just down the road here at the Keys Art Mile in Rosebank, if you happen to be this side of the world. Alternatively, you can find them on Instagram. It is quite the visual feast for anybody who's never seen it. A pop of color, uses a lot of color in her work, and like we said, the physical composition of the figures of the work, also celebrating a feminine form that is oftentimes judged and oftentimes not appreciated for all of its beauty. It's just gone 10 to 2 o'clock. It's time for us to have a break, and then of course Kids Corner is coming up.
Introducing a collection of Audi Black and Urban Special Edition models crafted for the bold and curated for the progressive. From the sporty Audi S3 and elegant A4 to the distinctive Q2 and Q3, each vehicle has been created to be an extension of your identity. Style, design, comfort, and technology is yours to own with a guaranteed future value and a competitive monthly installment through Audi Financial Services. Visit audi.co.za to discover more.
Two champions will collide as EFC returns live this Thursday. Watch the first title defense of flyweight sensation Gift the Day Walker against the current bantamweight title holder, the legendary Nkazimulu King Shaka Zulu.
All hail King Shaka,
who aims to join teammate Dricus du Plessis and once more being a two-division champion of Africa. EFC 111 live this Thursday. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
This program is brought to you by SABC Education, enriching minds, enriching lives.
Good day, everyone. My name is Kawagazi Mayana and I am 13 years old. Today, I'll be talking about the importance of spending time with my family. I feel like I spend enough time with my family. The best way to spend time with my family is to have a movie night or to watch soccer together, because we love watching soccer together. I would like to go to the stadium with my family or go to a hotel. That would be very, very fun and extremely luxurious. Spending time with my family helps strengthen the bond between family members. It creates stronger relationships and allows for greater understanding and connections, so that you don't always have to start fights with your family members, so that you love each other and you understand each other. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you have a great day further on. Goodbye, and I'll see you next time.
Hello everyone, I'm Mushfika Talib. Yes, I feel as if I spend enough time with my family because I know for a fact I'm always making time for them. Personally, I think the best way to spend time with your family is by doing something your whole family loves and is comfortable doing. Whether it be hiking, playing games, watching movies, or anything in general. The importance of spending time with family shouldn't even be explained, because wanting to be with your family should be a natural instinct, and because it helps to build a bond with them. And all in all, I feel as if it makes you as an individual feel wanted, safe, and happy. Thank you for listening. Bye.
Hello, my name is Muhammad Arham Ahmed. I am 9 years old and I go to Brixton Primary School.
I enjoy spending time with my family, but I wish we could have more game nights. It's important to bond with family because it strengthens relationship and creates lasting memories.
Hello, I'm Balintli. Oh, I don't feel like I spend enough time with my family. The best way to spend time with your family is over a meal. I would like to travel out of the country with my family. The importance of spending time with your family is getting closer to your loved ones.
My name is Ashley Kawamba and I'm 12 years old. I attend Florida Primary School. Yes, I do spend a lot of time with my family members. We always go out or stay home together, and sometimes we do make arrangements to go visit our family.
My name's Lorraine Mayo. I'm 8 years old and in grade 4. Each day in my family, we wake up to go somewhere. My brother and I go to school. My father goes to work, although my mother is usually at home. Each evening, when the weather is good, we normally sit outside on the stairs and chat until it gets dark. We have a lot of time together and tell each other how our day was. Sometimes my father tells us stories about how he grew up, which is so funny. On weekends, we watch the football matches together, and we have come to use the matches as a family time as well. We also go out to visit other places together as a family. Our favorite place to go to is the Kruger National Park, and we play a game to see who gets the most points in seeing an animal first. I wish you could play outside together, the ball or racing. I've asked my parents, but they always say they're busy doing something. I hope one day they will not be too busy. Then we can play together.
Hi everybody, my name is Kate and I'm 12 years old. I don't spend that much time with my family because we all have our own things to do. I like just sitting in my room and playing my music, or just vibing, or even calling my friends, or even going to a friend's house. So sometimes we all do our own thing and we don't spend that much time together, and honestly I am fine with that, and I don't have a problem with us not spending that much time. It doesn't bother me at all, and I've never really suggested it that much, but I have sometimes, but now I don't really anymore that much because I'm also busy with my own life. So yeah.
Hello friends! While we learn and go about our daily activities at school, it can feel like we're walking on a tightrope, with each step feeling uncertain or even frightening. However, our family consists of far more than only those to whom we are blood connected. You may be wondering how. Well, our family is made up of supportive and loving individuals with whom we may discuss our school-related problems and challenges. Always remember that having family is similar to being in Noah's Ark. While the outside world and other difficulties can occasionally be overpowering like a flood, our parents work hard to keep the ark safe and secure and provide us with a sense of security, love and care. So let us not forget to reach out to them about anything. They've got you. You can laugh and cry with your family, and always remember that they are there for you. Now there's a lot of things you can do to spend time with your family, like doing the garden together, walking at the park with your pets, hiking, playing games, and singing and reading books together as a family. There are so many other things you can enjoy with your family. Some activities can relieve stress, while others may impact knowledge that will help you perform better at school.
This program was brought to you by SABC Education. Enriching minds, enriching lives. SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. Independent and impartial. This is SAFM News.
In our top stories, Gauteng government's plan to deal with freeway improvement project debt and case against AKA murder suspects postponed. Good afternoon. In an effort to deal with the debt accumulated over the Gauteng Freeway Improvement Project, the Gauteng provincial government says it will have to borrow around 13 billion rand from financial institutions. This will add more debt to the government's balance sheet, which is currently sitting at 72.2% of GDP. The Gauteng MEC of Finance, Jacob Mamabolo, was delivering the provincial budget speech. He says the South African National Roads Agency wants the money immediately and they have to oblige. He says they are hopeful that economic conditions will improve and they will be able to pay back the debt sooner rather than later. Data from Statistics South Africa shows the country narrowly avoided a technical recession in the fourth quarter of last year. Stats SA says the economy grew by 0.1% in the fourth quarter of 2023. Contributions to the uptick in growth compared to the third quarter came from the transport, mining, personal services and finance. Chief Economist at Efficient Group, Davi Root.
None of the major industries really moved a lot, either up or down. So there were actually quite little movement on most of the various sectors in the South African economy. Economic growth now for the full year at 0.6%, which means that on a per capita basis, South Africans have been getting poorer again. I think it's important to note that although the South African economy is not necessarily in a technical recession because of the tiny economic growth in the fourth quarter, these numbers will be revised in future, and it is still possible that these numbers could be revised downwards.
The ANC in Ekurhuleni is calling for change in the political leadership of the city. The party has held a media briefing in Germiston, east of Johannesburg, after chaos erupted at the Ekurhuleni Council last week. The meeting was called for political parties to debate and pass a motion of no confidence against the executive mayor of the city of Ekurhuleni, Sivuyile Ngodwana. It was adjourned after a physical altercation broke out between the EFF and ANC members. The ANC's Ekurhuleni's Jongisizwe Dlabati says the current state of the city is troubling.
We are gearing towards a collapse, and therefore there is a need for us to salvage the situation. So the change that must happen is a change that will ensure that we have a financial stable city, that we have a city that provides sustainable services with little interruption. That speaks to the political leadership that is overseeing matters of finance, the political leadership that is overseeing the portfolios that are related to the delivery of basic services. There is a need for a change in the political leadership.
The Manzini Magistrates Court in Eswatini has postponed the case of two men implicated in the murder of rapper Keenan aka Forbes and his friend, renowned chef Tibelo Tibbs Motswane, to next week Tuesday. The matter has been postponed pending the lodging of a formal extradition application. Siyabonga and Malusi Ndimande have been remanded in custody. Police say they found 4 cell phones in possession of the accused. The Ndimande brothers were arrested at a rented house just outside the capital, Lumbabane, just over a week ago. They are facing charges of murder, attempted murder and conspiracy to commit murder. And finally, British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has suffered his first defeat over his legislation to send asylum seekers to Rwanda. The upper house of Parliament demanded greater protections to be introduced before deportation flights can take off. Under the Rwanda plan, which has yet to be carried out, asylum seekers who arrive on England's southern coast in small boats would be sent to live in Rwanda. But so far, no one has been deported because of ongoing legal challenges. Recapping the top story, in an effort to deal with the debt accumulated over the Gauteng Freeway Improvement Project, the Gauteng provincial government says it will have to borrow around 13 billion rand from financial institutions. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
Get South Africa's best adventure SUV. The new Ford Everest Sport 2-litre auto bi-turbo 4x2, now from only $14,499 per month with no deposit. With 20-inch alloy wheels and black exterior accents. Get the new Ford Everest Sport at your nearest Ford dealer today. T&Cs apply. Mzansi Afrika! All roads lead to FNB Stadium on Saturday, 9 March for the Soweto Derby. And we want you to be part of it. SABC Sport and Vodacom are giving you a chance to win your share of 30 double tickets. That's not all. As a Buccaneer or Corsi fan, you can also win double jerseys of Orlando Pirates or Kaizer Chiefs for you and your friend. To enter this exhilarating giveaway, head over to sabcsport.com and visit the competition page. Entries close on Tuesday, 5 March 2024. T's and C's apply. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
Tulu mama
It is Brendan Dumbo coming through with Tim Banjalo. That is how we open up the second hour of the show. Oh man, you gotta love her voice, and you gotta love her in performance as well. What a consummate performer! What a powerhouse! It's just gone 2:10 on the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga, leading the conversation on SAFM. We are going to be talking all things health and wellness now, as per promise. March is Endometriosis Awareness Month, and we thought that we'd take up the opportunity to educate ourselves on endometriosis, as well as just get a first-hand account of somebody who was diagnosed or is diagnosed with endometriosis and how that has affected her life, and just get to learn a bit more as well from a medical professional about this diagnosis that affects 1 in 10 women. Let's take a quick break and then we'll come back and get straight into the conversation.
If you're active on social media and love SAFM, we hope you'll take a moment to like or follow our SAFM page on Facebook and Twitter. These are the best places to find all the guest information, conversations, and stories you love from your favorite presenters, along with regular updates from SABC News. And don't forget, you can send your questions to feedback@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversation. You are listening to The Full Circle.
Like I said, March is Endometriosis Awareness Month. 1 in 10 women are diagnosed with endometriosis, and we thought we'd take the opportunity to learn more about endometriosis, as well as maybe get a first-hand account from someone who's been diagnosed and is living with endometriosis. We are in conversation now with Dr. Josias Bari, who's an interventional radiologist, and Nadine Kirk, who's an activist living with endometriosis. And I think maybe let's first start with you, Dr. Josias, and find out just in terms of endometriosis. Firstly, good afternoon to you. I hope you're well. Doc? Hello? Okay, let's see if Nadine is on the line. How are you doing, Nadine?
Hi, how are you?
I'm fantastic. I wanted to start off with the good doctor first, just to give us the medical definition, but I think we'll allow my team some time to try and get him back on the line. But let me maybe find out from you, just living with endometriosis, if you could paint us a picture of what is that like? Because I think a lot of us actually we don't even know what endometriosis is, and so we don't even know what the day-to-day experience is for somebody living with endometriosis.
Okay, so just a quick one. My last name is Dirks, Nadine Dirks.
Dirks, okay, we've got it spelled as Kirk. Okay.
No. Well, look, the day-to-day life of someone living with endometriosis, I suppose, is different for everyone. But the one thing that's quite painful and difficult to live with is the fact that you are living with a chronic illness and living with chronic pain every day. So I'm here on behalf of the Foundation of Endometriosis Advocacy Association and Support Group. And also on behalf of myself, I've written a book entitled Hot Water, which also uncovers, living with endometriosis and how much strain it puts on someone. It also affects your mental health and your physical health, emotional well-being. All of the above.
Dr. Josias, good afternoon to you. How are you?
I'm good, and how are you?
I'm fantastic. Great to have you on the line. Let's start by understanding what is endometriosis so that we can have a conversation fully knowing what we are dealing with here.
Okay, so endometriosis is literally the abnormal endometrial tissue or a diseased endometrial tissue that is found anywhere outside the womb, from the head all the way to your pelvis. So it can be misplaced endometrial tissue in your nose, in your lungs, in your liver, your kidneys, anywhere in the abdomen, affecting even your bowel, anywhere in the pelvis, affecting both your fallopian tubes. It can go into your ovaries. It can extend outside where it needs to be, where it needs to be in the cavity of the uterus, where it's normally placed. It can extend through the wall of the uterus to outside the uterus, and it can even attach itself to your urinary bladder. So any abnormal endometrial tissue found anywhere else in the body except where it needs to be, which is the uterine cavity, is regarded as endometriosis.
And when we talk about endometrial tissue, and forgive me if I get the pronunciation of these medical and physical terms correct or incorrect. When we talk about endometrial tissue, this is tissue that's supposed to be ordinarily found where? Normally it's found where it's considered this is its normal habitat, and it's growing normally. What does that look like?
Okay, so normal endometrial tissue is found within the cavity of the uterus, attached to the inner surface of the uterus, not extending into any wall of the uterus, or what we call the myometrium. It is the one that builds up during your menstrual cycle from the time of ovulation to the time of menstruation. So after you have ovulated, there are hormones that are produced that lead to its nurturing and build up, because it readies the body for pregnancy should there be the issue, or should that be the desired effect. So it thickens up, so almost like lays a blanket to receive the fertilized egg, so that then it can start the process of conception. So you find it there. But what happens is that when we call it a disappointed uterus, when that process of conception does not happen, after a while, it starts breaking down and it comes out as menstrual, what they call menstrual fluid. Other people call it the menstrual blood, the red mucoid fluid that comes per vaginum.
Yes.
At every menstrual point. That's
see.
What menstrual tissue is.
Oh, I see. Okay. That gives us a great clarity. So anywhere where that particular tissue is found that is not the inside cavities of a uterus is then known as abnormal endometrial tissues, misplaced endometrial tissues.
Yes, and hence endometriosis. Osis meaning disease, meaning abnormality, meaning pathology.
I see. And then the difference, perhaps, maybe briefly, between endometriosis and adenomyosis. Okay.
So endometriosis, like I said, it's abnormal tissue everywhere in the body.
Yeah.
Adenomyosis is abnormal endometrial tissue that affects the wall of the uterus from the inside to the outside. So as this abnormal endometrial tissue invaginates and invades the wall of the uterus, we can grade it into grade 1 to grade 4, where we're saying less than 5% of the wall is affected, more than 25% of the wall is affected, more than 75% of the wall is affected, and 100% of the wall is affected to the outside, extending to the outside. And then we grade it according to that. And that is known as endometrial tissue found in the wall of the womb or the uterus, and it's called adenomyosis.
I see. All right, let's take a quick break here, and then we'll come back and continue our conversation. By the way, if you are somebody that's been diagnosed with endometriosis, or perhaps you've done some Google MD and you've self-diagnosed yourself before going to see an expert, and you have some questions that you might need clarity on, or some advice as to who do you see or who do you consult, you can give us a call on 086 000 2032, or send us a a WhatsApp voice note on 061-410-4107. It's just gone 20 past 2.
The Northwest, the Provincial Legislature Portfolio Committee on Economic Development, Environment, Tourism, Agriculture and Rural Development will conduct public hearings on the 6th of March on Climate Change Bill and Public Procurement Bill at Zirasta Municipal Hall, Naka Mudre Mulema, Potchefstroom Banquet Hall, Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, Khanyisa Auditorium Hall, Dr. Ruth Sohomozi Mompati, and Mabudisa Community Hall in Muruleng, Buchanala District. All hearings start at 10 o'clock.
Two champions will collide as EFC returns live this Thursday. Watch the first title defense of flyweight sensation Gift the Day Walker against the current bantamweight title holder, the legendary Nkazimulu King Shaka Zulu.
All hail King Shaka,
who aims to join teammate Dricus du Plessis and once more being a two-division champion of Africa. EFC 111 live this Thursday. Watch it on SABC Sport Channel on DTT Channel 4 from 7 p.m. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
We are in conversation with Dr. Josiah Sapari, who's an interventional radiologist, and Nadine Dirks, who is an activist, also diagnosed with endometriosis, as we learn more about this diagnosis that affects 1 in 10 women. And Doc, let me also ask you, when we talk about, affecting 1 in 10 women, is this a global statistic? And how does it affect individuals? Are there common traits that one picks up on if you suspect that you might have endometriosis?
Excuse me, say that again?
In terms of the prevalence of endometriosis, I read a stat that says 1 in 10 women. Is that an accurate number, particularly in the South African context? And what characteristics would one have to look out for if you think you might have endometriosis?
I think that stat is very conservative, because if you can imagine, most women suffer through severe menstrual period without necessarily having to go and attend, because they are made to believe that it is okay and it is normal to have painful periods. So the extreme pain is normalized, which should not be. So if these ladies were to go and consult at any point of care, of healthcare, then the statistics would go higher. So it's a conservative statistic. I think it's much more severe, and it can be 1 in every 5, 1 in every 4.
Sure.
If we to include all the women that are complaining of severe menstrual period or pain, menstrual pain. The presenting symptoms, like I said, it's pain that are not in keeping with what period should be like. It's usually lower abdominal, pelvic. It can be even go beyond the menstrual cycle, like your period is finished and you're supposed not to be on your period, but the pain is still lingering in the background. It can be in your lower back. It can be upper back. It can sometimes extend to your kidneys. You feel like the upper back of your body has extreme pain. You can also have liver pain. You can have chest pain and coughing. You can have a nosebleed. Those are the presenting symptoms. Sometimes you also have nausea and vomiting. Some women go into extreme episodes of vomiting. They have a sense of heaviness, bloatedness in their abdomen. Some go into constipation. Few go into diarrhea. They may present with diarrhea.
Yeah.
And also feeling of weakness, especially when they get anemic, because it presents with heavy menstruation. So it leads to loss of your hemoglobin, which leads to anemia. It leads to headaches, dizziness, palpitation, a sense of an anxiety attack, and extreme fatigue.
Yeah, and the scary part about what you're pointing out here, Dr. Josiah, is that any one of these symptoms, in isolation or maybe coupled with another, just read like just normal symptoms of anything, whether normal menstrual symptoms, side effects, normal flu or change of season. If you take it in its isolation, which I guess is why maybe a number of people go undiagnosed. Oh, we just are swapping lines with the doctor. Maybe let's jump in. You, Nadine, there. Let me ask you, whilst we're on symptoms, for you, what were the presenting symptoms and what made you sort of go, wait, let me pause and get this looked at a little bit closer?
For me, it was definitely just experiencing a lot of pain and heavy bleeding on my period. But I'd also feel nauseous. I would faint. I would have like numb, aching legs. So it was a whole body thing.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first symptoms. And then as time progressed, I just had constant lower back pain, which I still do now. As the doctor mentioned as well, it has affected my my digestive system. So like he spoke about, having issues with diarrhea or constipation. It has gone so far that it has affected my kidneys. So it is a complicated thing because for different people, different patients, they will have different symptoms. So, yeah, just looking at it in that way, I think that the overarching symptoms people should pay attention to is definitely the stuff related to one's period, although we know that endometriosis symptoms doesn't quite stop when a period stops.
And let me also ask, Nadine, because I read that endometriosis can start from, a person's first period. So at 12, 13, 11, depending on when you're getting your period, it can start and it can go on even undiagnosed all the way through until menopause. And that, I think, is sort of the area of caution, because then how do we conscientize more women to be more aware so that they can seek help and assistance?
Well, I think how we do this is to stop normalizing periods in terms of, saying that, oh, you should be in pain. Oh, yeah, you're bleeding a lot. We'll just get you pads or whatever, sanitary products for a higher...
a heavy bleed.
Heavy bleed, and then that sort of thing. I think we've normalized a lot of that. We've normalized someone being in really, really horrific pain. And I think once we stop that and we make sure that people know, of course, your uterus is contracting and your contracting muscle hurts, but it shouldn't be debilitating. It shouldn't be where you can't function and you are in excruciating pain. If that's what, if that is what you are experiencing, then you should go and consult and figure out, what is going on. And I think what's also important for us as a nation is to start talking about these things. We can be quite conservative in the fact that, we stigmatize menstrual cycles and we stigmatize anything related to it. And that's why I wrote my memoir. It's entitled Hot Water, where I talk about all of these things and I talk about how we can make sure that, other people aren't suffering or getting to a point where it's taking so long to diagnose, or people don't go and consult because they think it's normal.
Absolutely. Let's pause it there and we'll take a quick headline news and then we'll come back on the other side and continue our conversation. We're talking endometriosis. If you've had a diagnosis or perhaps you suspect that some of these symptoms as outlined by Dr. Josiah Sapari ring true to yourself, or maybe now from what you're hearing Nadine saying, it's ringing some bells of caution around your monthly menstrual cycle or your daughter's monthly menstrual cycle. The conversation continues after this.
Good afternoon. In the headlines, Media 24 editorial director Charlene Rawls says Google undermines revenue generation in advertising and subscriptions at Media 24. Rawls says this is due to Google dominating the entire advertising industry on the internet. In an effort to deal with the debt accumulated over the Gauteng Freeway Improvement Project, the Gauteng provincial government says it will have to borrow around 13 billion rand from financial institutions. And the Eastern Cape provincial government is currently hosting a delegation from China's Xinjiang province. The purpose of the visit is to explore opportunities for cooperation between the two provinces and strengthen bilateral relations. I'll have details on these and other stories at 3.
Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
086 000 2032 is the number you can call us on, or 0614104107 if you want to send through a WhatsApp voice note. By the way, we are live streaming as well on all of our social media platforms. You can find us there. Our handle is the same everywhere. Wherever you are, we are at SAFM Radio. We're in conversation with the good Dr. Josiah Spari and Nadine Dirks, who is an activist and also diagnosed with endometriosis. We've run through the symptoms, the presenting symptoms of endometriosis. And as you heard Nadine say before we headed into the break, we need to stop, particularly as women, normalizing that, oh, you're just having a bad period, oh, you're a heavy bleeder, all periods are meant to be, painful and debilitating. And as Nadine was talking about that, I was reflecting back throughout my high school career, and all the times I'd spend in the sick bay because of the pain that I was in. Fast forward many years later, and then you get diagnosed with adenomyosis, and you realize why. Let's talk a little bit also, Doc, about the work that you do, interventional radiology. How does that help in diagnosing endometriosis?
Okay, so from the symptomatology or the way of presenting, then we go to what?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes. Then we go to what we call investigative, which then we talked about anemia, which is the check for low blood because of the heavy menses. Then we go to ultrasound. Ultrasound is what women usually call the scan when they are pregnant. Then we use the same ultrasound that we scan for when you are pregnant. We go to the same area. We can either do it trans-abdominally, meaning from the top down, or we can do it transvaginally, meaning that we put a probe in the vagina and then assess the status of your uterus. And that tells us whether you do have endometriosis or there's endometriosis plus fibroids or just fibroids, because sometimes they present with similar symptoms.
Okay.
And then from then on, we do what we call a confirmatory imaging investigation. And the gold standard there is what we call an MRI, magnetic resonance imaging of the same area, which then confirms the presence of abnormal endometrial lining or tissue, and also helps us grade it from, like I said, grade 1 to grade 4. And in other areas, we can do a chest X-ray. We can also do an ultrasound of the kidneys. We can do ultrasound of the liver to see if there's tissue there. And then there's what you call a laparoscope, where they put cameras in your abdomen via your navel, and they can assess. We can do a hysteroscope also that can also help assess.
Yeah. And did I read correctly that the causes of endometriosis are unknown?
Yes, they are not known. It can be idiopathic. It means we don't know what is the cause, but also multiple cesarean sections may lead to what we call adenomyosis. Because as and when we cut through the endometrial tissue, and some of it inadvertently gets implanted into the uterine wall, and that leads to acquired endometriosis in the long term.
Got you. Let's
or adenomyosis in the long term.
Yeah.
And part of the presenting symptoms will be extreme pain that doesn't go away at all. It keeps on lulling behind, and also a complication of endometriosis will be what we call primary infertility or secondary infertility, meaning that you probably did not have it before, but now you have it and it leads to secondary, but you've had a child already. Or primary infertility, it means at the trial of conceiving for a minimum of 12 months without success, leads to what you call primary infertility, where you don't have a child at all.
Absolutely. Let's go to WhatsApp, and then I want to come back and ask Nadine about, how you've managed your endometriosis diagnosis over the years. But perhaps first, let me jump to WhatsApp. Let's go to the voice note, and then we'll come back.
Just a quick question. I just want to find out if I have pains on the side of my legs, just where my tubes probably are located. If it's a sign of endometriosis, or if it's something maybe that I need to go and get checked out for, or if it's something it's just normal because it occurs a week after my period. So if I can have some advice on that.
Sure thing. Doc, I'm going to let you jump in on that quickly. Pain on the side of the leg that occurs about a week or so after her period. Would you advise further consultation?
Any pain that is abnormal needs consultation. Any pain that is associated with menses, whether before menses or just before menses, during menses, and soon after menses, needs consultation. It could be that there is a fibroid that's big, that's compressing on the nervous supply of the leg, and it leads to sciatica. There's a bit of swelling whenever you go onto your menstrual cycle, and that may push the fibroid if it's sitting posteriorly against the sacral plexus. That is the nerve supply that supplies from your bum down to your foot. So that may be related to the compression of that plexus, which may lead to pain. So yes, she needs to go and consult.
Awesome stuff. Nadine, in terms of how you've managed, your endometriosis, over the years, how has that worked out for you? What has worked, and perhaps in pain management or just keeping things at bay?
So I have quite severe endometriosis, and so I have nerve pain and all of those different things, and it's quite a difficult condition because you have to take the medications and you have to be doing physiotherapy and moving. So sometimes it's quite painful. So for me, it has been definitely a combination of things. I've had to go on multiple types of medication to help with, my nerve pain, and then just the overall chronic pain that comes with endometriosis, and also doing pelvic physio, which has been really helpful in, learning new ways of doing things, even learning new ways of sleeping and so forth, to kind of take the weight off and take the edge off the pain. And then there's things like supplements and diet that is also something that people quite often will reference. And in my case, it's been a combination of all of those things, and then also having to have surgeries to fix things, to do what needs to be done. And you'll find quite often that is a last resort for many of us who have endometriosis. So it's a combination of medication and what you're eating, so your diet, and then physio as well. You also might need to have a therapist on hand so that you can work through the emotional impact of living with this disease.
Doc, in terms of, you've run us through sort of the interventional radiology side of things. Is there a way to treat endometriosis that is not completely intrusive and invasive?
Yes, so in interventional radiology, we talk about minimally invasive procedures where we use your vessels to get to your womb. We use your arteries to get to your womb using catheters and wires to get to the tip of your uterine arteries, where we can deposit medicated beads that clot up your blood that supplies the abnormal endometrial tissue, especially in the case of adenomyosis from grade 1 to grade 4, when we clot up those vessels that supply the endometrial tissue with hormones, with nutrition, with oxygen, and help it grow. So when we've deposited those medicated beads, the clotting deprives it of the oxygen, the hormones, the nutrition that it makes it grow, then it shrinks it away. And that leads to symptomatic relief. The higher the grade, the more difficult it is to treat. We might have to do multiple treatments. The lower the grade, the easier it is to treat. And women have reported symptomatic relief post the what we call uterine artery embolization, which we do in hospital, in the cath lab, or in theater. And it's an overnight admission, and then you discharge the following day, all things being well.
Yeah.
If you have not suffered any complications during the procedure.
Lovely. Dr. Josiah Sapari, we appreciate the time, and of course Nadine Dirks, thank you so much for joining us in conversation. It's just gone 22. Let's take a quick one, and then we'll come back on the other side of this and catch up with John Khireke.
Catch the Insider SA this Monday evening at 6 as 10,000 hours at the piano elevate South Africa's teenage pianist Mike Wang to the peak of music. DJ Nilofa Said turns afternoon traffic jams into the best part of your day. And para-athlete Darren Thomas wins hearts, minds and medals in Miami, USA. That's the Insider SA this Monday evening at 6. Repeat Saturday at 1 p.m. and Sunday morning at 10:30 on S3.
Mzansi's top spinners are back on the ground for a tire-screeching battle.
Here we go. You ready for some fun?
Stay glued to SABC TV channels on 16 March 2024 for a breathtaking experience of Red Bull Shine Moto.
Precision driving at its very best out here. This is Africa. Welcome to a world of spinning.
Do not miss out on the heated spinning by the greats of the sport. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
SAFM. Prime time all day long.
Why would my technical... We're still having an off-air conversation around endometriosis versus adenomyosis. Yes, and I know I'm pronouncing it slightly wrong there because I'm not a medical practitioner. But yeah, it's the cousin to endometriosis, and it often goes undiagnosed, and it's mostly caught by fertility doctors, because it affects reproduction and fertility. They really are honed at finding it more than most OBGYNs.
So if you can't have a baby, you go to a fertility expert, they find out.
They might find it as a misdiagnosis.
Sure.
Yeah, crazy.
Hello, by the way.
How are you?
I'm okay. Not Aldrin.
Not Aldrin.
It's not Aldrin in today.
How are you?
Lekker, man. All right, coming up in the show, what do we got? It's 15 minutes or so before that.
Yeah.
Zimbabwe sanctions have been lifted by the states, but they have put specific sanctions on the president, his wife, senior government officials, others involved in corruption and human rights abuses. So it's good news for Zimbabwe.
So how long have those sanctions been?
Many, many years is the answer, the technical answer. 2003 is the answer. There we go. See, 20 years of sanctions, but now they're more targeted, more specific. We're staying international. We're going to get an update on what's happening in Russia, that Russia-Ukraine war. We're going to speak to Norway's ambassador to South Africa, who wrote an opinion piece in the Sunday Times.
Okay.
And we're going to ask him about that. He's saying, would South Africa or Africans must be careful thinking that Russia is a brother in arms against colonialism. Deeply hypocritical claim. So we'll hear why he says that.
Yeah.
You've heard in the news, we're 0.1% growth in the fourth quarter of last year.
Some people celebrated, I don't know.
Look, it's the difference between an A and a B plus.
0.1%.
It's that close. It's like that close. Is it? Well, what does it mean? We're going to find out about that later on. And then Extinction Rebellion Cape Town held a protest today at an Indaba where they're talking about energy and the future, and gas is the one they're very unhappy about. These are pro-climate.
Yeah.
They dislike climate change. And they held a protest. The headline of their protest, Gwedi Mantashe, liar, liar, pants on fire. So there's a whole lot of points and myths that they say, and they've gone against those myths, like gas is more friendly, fossil fuel, gas will swell the public purse, and a number of other things as well. So we're going to find out why they were protesting.
Lots on your agenda today.
Sure, it's a busy show.
Very busy.
Plus, we'll take calls. I love taking calls, so please get those phone numbers in.
He wants you to do all of the heavy lifting. That's John Gerike in for Aldrin St. Pierre today. Beyond the Headline, 3 until 6 o'clock.
Third placed VFB Stuttgart understand that only victory will get them close to the top 2 teams on the table. Whereas Union Berlin have a mammoth task to cause an upset away from home. Who will dictate terms at the MHP Arena? This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Experience the German style of the game. VFB Stuttgart FC versus FC Union Berlin on Friday, 8 March at 9:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Top Sport with Michael Abramson.
Our cricket correspondent from KenBorland.com. Ken Borland, what a match it was. An incredible end to the 4-day domestic series with the home side, the DP World Lions, doing it by 99 runs. Was it basically due to one man's batting efforts?
No, it wasn't. As incredibly well as Delano Potgieter played, and, I think this final will be remembered as Delano Potgieter's final. He scored 81 and an epic 155 not out. He had fantastic support, especially from the lower order. And I guess that's what just really showed the character, the tenacity, the belief of this Lions team.
Top Sport on SAFM. SAFM Sunrise with Stephen Grootes.
What's happening at the school?
A terrible situation which the parents find it no longer acceptable. That you have kids going grade 9s once per week and grade 8s twice per week. Really unacceptable. So that means you've got parents leaving their kids on a daily basis in the morning at home instead of going to school.
Is it just a shortage of accommodation, in other words, buildings, or is there a shortage of teachers as well?
There's a shortage of teachers also. The department's representative assured us that once they move, there would be sufficient teachers.
Sure. Tabo Kwaka, thank you very much indeed. A concerned parent at Teresa Park High School. You're with SAFM.
SAFM Sunrise with Stephen Grootes, 6 to 9 a.m. You're listening to Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
It is going to be International Women's Day, and we thought we'd be in conversation with Dr. Ziyanda Makaba, who's a clinical specialist, HIV and pediatric at the Broadridge Health Development. And because this International Women's Day, we are turning the spotlight on those unsung community influencers who've actually made it their life's mission to reach their peers and bring down HIV prevalence, particularly amongst young women and in particular amongst young black women. Good afternoon to you, Dr. Ziyanda. How are you doing today?
Good afternoon, Bridget. Thank you for having me on your call, and good afternoon to your listeners. I'm doing well, thanks.
I'm great. Thank you very much. I'm great. So women and girls are accounting for more than 60% of all new HIV infections in sub-Saharan Africa, and this coming out of a report in 2022. Let's talk maybe perhaps about some of the factors, particularly the more common factors that are affecting this very high number.
Thank you, Bridget, and thank you for that question. So there's multiple reasons why particularly young women are at higher risk of being infected by HIV or have higher incidence of HIV. And part of it is, those age disparities and gender disparate relationship where we see more young girls in relationship with older men. And in studies done, we find that those younger girls are more likely to get HIV transmission. But there's also biological factor and other psychosocial elements. For example, more people in the disadvantaged background or people in poor background, the young women in poor background, are more likely to be infected or, be in these gender disparate relationships.
And part of this conversation then leads us to the importance of community influences in turning the tide back, particularly in this demographic of 15 to 19-year-olds.
That's correct. Because how you reach an adult, you might find, for example, an adult person in a clinic coming for their chronic medication, hypertension and all. But remember, the young girls will be in the community, and you will reach them in a different strategy than you would for an older individual. And they also need services directly aligned to them, provided by providers that speak the same language as them, in the same age group, which we'll call the peer mentors, which are our community influencers.
And these peer mentors, are these folks that have been prior identified? Are these folks that have a shared life experience in order for them to speak from that perspective of authority, but more importantly, relatability? Because if you can relate to somebody, you most likely are going to give them a few minutes of your time and listen to what they're saying.
That's completely correct. So these community influencers are from the same community. So, so that they can be in the same neighborhood, as you said very aptly, the same shared experiences. And they are able to communicate in a way that just the language that adolescents or young women will understand, but in a way that they understand, and we make sure that when part of the recruitment, these are people who are properly trained and they can communicate in a way that is non-stigmatizing, which makes the adolescent girl or young woman more comfortable to engage and uptake the services that are being offered.
And just Dr. Ziyanda, the importance also maybe help us understand the importance of a sort of not a one size fits all approach. A tailored, bespoke approach to this conversation around HIV and AIDS, because for many years we were doing a one size fits all spray and pray without a targeted focus of messaging.
Yes. So I think that's one of the key things that unlocks us reaching these adolescent girls and young women. That we cannot expect what works for one population group to work for the other, like a copy-paste kind of scenario, and a program that doesn't evolve and change to adapt to the situation or the scenario in the community that we serve. So in terms of the tailored approach, we'll make sure that the adolescent girls are reached, yes, in the healthcare facilities, but mainly in the communities where they are, and they are reached by services in the communities where they are, and they can have a sort of a client-centered approach in terms of the services that they need and the services that they can access easily from the community.
And what is it termed the differentiated models of care framework?
Yes. So by that, we mean that it is not just saying there's only one mode of care. There is a differentiated approach in that, some clients are quite happy, collecting medication or getting their services in the facility of primary health care. But some clients are unable to do that, whether it's school, whether it's work, whether it's other psychosocial issues. So therefore, our approach in providing those services cannot be the same. Therefore, it has to be differentiated and it has to be client-centered approach.
All right. And then let's also talk about, since we are focusing on these community influences and the incredible work that they're doing, particularly in reaching this delicate demographic of 15 to 19-year-olds. Let's talk about how easy it is, or perhaps some of the challenges that are faced when engaging this demographic around some of the more preventative measures for HIV and AIDS and STIs. I know we oftentimes talk a lot around, condomize, but there's been other technologies that have been brought into the fore, things like PrEP, things like PEP. And is it easy to sort of get that knowledge and education out and get it out, particularly to the youth?
Thank you for that. So I wouldn't say it's easy, but I think it needs to be sort of directed, and it needs to be prepared in a way that the participants that you want to involve are engaged in this. For example, with our preventative measures that we offer, as I mentioned earlier on, we do not just offer it in facilities, and we do not offer it in a limited environment. We make sure that people are able to access those services where they are. And I wouldn't say easy, but I think when you have the right people offering the right services, then you do get it easier in terms of getting more women enrolled into it. So if you look at how we started with the PrEP program at the beginning of our current funded program, which is called a PACE in the work that we do. We were only enrolling about 1,000 women a year on preventative services. But fast forward to about end of last year, in that 1 year, people who uptake PrEP in the whole year is about 22,000. I mean, it's a 22-fold increase in that. And that's purely because we try different ways and different strategies. So I wouldn't say easy, because it didn't just jump, like that. But we have to try the strategy, and if it doesn't work, we have to engage the young women that we want to reach, and then, modify our approach to make sure that it suits the intended population group.
Yeah. And by way of our final question, you've had some really encouraging results in the Mpumalanga area with your community influencers.
Yes, we have. As I mentioned just now, our PrEP enrollment has improved. But I think something that we sometimes forget is when you using the preventative measures, the first step is HIV testing. And the test can come back negative, which means we can enroll you to prevention. If it comes back positive, it's not the end of the world. We are able to counsel and enroll the person into ARV services, and they can take antiretroviral treatment. And we've also seen improvement or reduction in numbers of children being born with HIV because of women that are uptaking PrEP, and also because of women who are uptaking antiretroviral treatment, therefore are not passing the virus to their newborn or unborn children.
Listen, you're doing incredible work there with broad reach, and of course your community influences. And I think individuals like that who give off their time and their energy to go out there and do important work and magnify the work of organizations like yourself is so important to be given airtime and also just to be honored and celebrated. So thank you very much for the time today. Much appreciated. That was Dr. Ziyanda Makaba, who's a clinical specialist, HIV and pediatrics at Broadridge Health Development. As you heard, they've had some really encouraging results with their community influences in regions such as Mpumalanga, where work has really just been magnified, intensified, and they've had the ability to roll back some numbers and have a great uptake as well on preventative methods such as PrEP. We actually have a schedule to have a conversation around PrEP. Because the late Dr. Cindy Van Zyl was doing such important conversations around this and educating communities around the importance and the usage of PrEP, and it's only prudent that we continue that and don't let that steam and momentum go to waste. From myself and my team, thank you so much for choosing to spend the afternoon with us. John is in for Aldrin St. Pierre this afternoon. He's going to be with you from 3 until 6 o'clock. That is where we leave it for the day, but it does continue on all of our social media platforms. You can find me on X as well as Instagram at Bridget Masinga. Inshallah, God willing, we get to do it again tomorrow.
SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation.
Do business big. Sign up to selected Telkom Business LTE and fiber deals and get a free NSBC voucher worth 3,950 rands. T's and C's apply.
Independent and impartial. This is SAFM News.
In our top stories, Google's revenue generation in the spotlight, and Eastern Cape government hosts a Chinese delegation. Good afternoon. Media 24 editorial director Charlene Roll says Google undermines revenue generation in advertising and subscriptions at Media 24. Roll says this is due to Google dominating